Welcome to HDTV. You're now rocking with your boy. Fair USAC, fair USAC.
Friday edition of PFT Live. Let me say this first before we get to the Brian Flores developments. We have some great mailbag questions. I apologize I haven't gotten to them. We are going to push them all to PFT PM because I want to talk about what happened on Thursday afternoon in the Flores case. The NFL has yet to file its official response to the amended complaint that was submitted a couple of weeks ago by Flores, Ray Horton, and Steve Wilkes, with more teams added, with now the total list is the Texans, the Broncos, the Giants, the Cardinals, and the Titans, along with the NFL at large. What the NFL plans to do, and this came up in a document that was put together by the parties to help the judge understand how the scheduling of the case is going to go, et cetera, et cetera. It came up in there over and over again that the NFL intends to file a motion to compel arbitration of the entire controversy. And you've heard us talk about mandatory arbitration in NFL contracts a time or two. The Flores lawyers knew this was coming. Brian Flores has been involved recently in events aimed at expanding prohibitions under federal law to mandatory arbitration. There's already a law that prohibits it for cases involving sexual misconduct, sexual harassment, etc. at work. Flores part of an effort to have race discrimination cases included within that, because here's how it goes. And I lived in this world for 18 years. I was on both sides of it. What happens is when a large company gets sued in court, job number one is try to figure out how to get out of court. Big company does not want 6 average people, and yes, for civil cases, it's typically 6 on the jury, not 12. The big company doesn't want 6 average people holding the company accountable for how it treats individual employees, because those 6 individuals are far more likely to identify with the person who claims that his or her rights were violated at work. So, employers have found a way to try to finagle arbitration clauses into handbooks, contracts, policies, anywhere, so that if an employee has a lawsuit that is ever being contemplated, that claim is more properly brought in arbitration. That's what exactly the NFL has baked into individual contracts, constitution, and bylaws. Jon Gruden's currently going through it with his lawsuit against the NFL, and now Flores, Horton, and Wilkes will be going through it. Here's what you got to keep in mind here. Most employers, when they try to use private arbitration to avoid giving an individual employee his or her day in court, there's a truly independent arbitration process. It's still set up for the employer to get a better outcome than they would in court, because again, you're not facing a jury of 6 average people who may get confused by the law and just decide to Robin Hood it and take from the rich and give to the poor, relatively speaking. That happens. But in this specific context with the NFL, it's not just referring the matter to the American Arbitration Association for a process that results in the 2 sides figuring out who the best arbitrator would be. This is a system where the NFL says, we'll handle this. The commissioner, or whoever the commissioner designates, will be the one to decide whether or not the employee's rights were violated in some way. That creates what I have called a secret, rigged kangaroo court. Secret because it gets taken out of the court system. The media is not able to monitor it. The testimony doesn't happen in an open setting where owners may be grilled and forced to admit to things they don't want to admit. It all happens behind closed doors. It's rigged because it's the commissioner or his designee. The person who is ultimately paid by all teams, hired by all teams, kept or not kept by all teams, is making these decisions. How is that not rigged in favor of the NFL and its teams? And it is a kangaroo court because it's not a real court. The rules of evidence don't apply. The rules of discovery don't apply. There may be information that is highly pertinent to whether or not discrimination occurred, to what was actually going on. It's going to be easier to get that in court.
This is bum ass
I
forgot his name.
From a process that's presided over by the commissioner. So, secret
speaking.
rigged kangaroo court is what the NFL is trying to push the Flores case into. What we fall.
All right, I don't like him. That's Mike Florio. He's a bum. Now, the NFL currently finds itself in multiple legal messes. What it says and does in one could become a key factor in another. As explained by Daniel Wallach of conductdetrimental.com, an argument already advanced by the league in defending itself against the Jon Gruden lawsuit could undermine one of the defenses the league plans to make in the Brian Flores case. Excuse me. Specifically, the NFL plans to argue, per Wallach, that the league doesn't hire coaches and that only teams do. As Wallach notes, Flores and the other two plaintiffs in the case, Ray Horton and Steve Wilkes, most likely will argue that the teams in the league are joint employers of head coaches. Proof in support of that conclusion could come from statements made by the league in the Gruden case. Specifically, the NFL has argued in Gruden's case that it didn't need to leak inappropriate emails sent by Gruden to former Washington President Bruce Allen because the league had the power to suspend or fire Gruden under the league's constitution and bylaws. If, as the argument in the Flores case would go, the NFL has that kind of authority over a head coach, then the NFL is a joint employer of every head coach. It's a wrinkle to watch as the Flores case unfolds, and if the NFL takes a position in that case that is inconsistent with one or more of the positions taken in the Gruden case, that would hurt the credibility of the league and its lawyers in the eyes of the judge presiding over the Flores case. Okay, now, let's see. I'll come back to that one. I got another one here. Okay. Now, a lawyer for Brian Flores said to a judge, Monday that arbitration is the wrong way to resolve a lawsuit that alleges racist hiring practices in the NFL, in part because league hold on. Sorry about that. The lawsuit that alleges racist hiring practices in the NFL, in part because league commissioner Roger Goodell would be the arbitrator, and that would be unconscionable. Attorney Douglas Wigdor said the league was trying to force behind closed doors the claims of Flores and two other black coaches. None of the coaches were present for the Manhattan federal court hearing. It was the first hearing for a lawsuit Flores filed in February when he claimed the league was rife with racism. Even as the NFL publicly condemns it, Flores was fired in January as head coach by the Miami Dolphins after leading the team to a 24-25 record over 3 years with two straight winning seasons, including the 2021 season when a 9-8 record left him out of the playoffs. He has since been hired as an assistant coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers. His lawsuit was joined last month by two other coaches, Steve Wilkes and Ray Horton. There are 6 minority head coaches currently in the NFL, a league in which the majority of the players are black. Former U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch, representing the NFL, told Judge Valerie E. Caprani that the league believes all claims in the lawsuit must be moved to arbitration according to the terms of employment agreements. Wigdor said the league demonstrated this unconscionable bias of the arbitrator when the NFL said the claims in the lawsuit were without merit after it was first filed. He said it would not be fair for Goodell to arbitrate the claims after he earned $120 million over the last 2 years from the league's teams. Lynch said she invited the 3 coaches and their lawyers to meet with league officials to discuss the important issues surrounding racial inclusion that the NFL seeks to address. Today they declined to meet with us, she said. Wigdor said he rejected the league's invitation to discuss racial issues because there would be no magistrate judge or judge present. For now, the judges put the lawsuit on the slow track, setting up a schedule stretching into August for the submission of written arguments regarding whether arbitration is required. That schedule is likely to be delayed further once Wigdor formally informs the judge that he wants to seek permission to collect evidence surrounding the arbitration practices of the league before the issue is resolved. So basically and everything. What the NFL is trying to do, they're trying to move it to arbitration because when it goes to arbitration, it can be slowed down or ran through, and nobody's really going to actually get to hear the side of Brian Flores and the coaches. This is why Brian Flores is trying to keep it away from that. He wants to keep it on a broader scale so you could get the federal court involved and you could get other people involved, including the media as well. Because if you do that, then more people will hear it. Arbitration is basically put into a small courtroom and then boom, they just run through it and then they're done. They just look at the little things, look at whatever the NFL presents or whatever sides present, and they really don't go hard at it as if it was a regular case, So this is just a little snag, and Gruden's going through the same thing. So, you know what I'm saying? We'll see, man. I hope Brian Flores and Jon Gruden wins against the NFL because the NFL pulled the punk move on both of them. But the NFL has turned itself into a sports entertainment company, which is like WWE, which means that they are allowed to switch the game up, fix it, or make it controlled. Same thing as the NBA. All of it is sports entertainment now. And people don't understand that the game is controlled. Everything is not left up to chance depending on the game. So thank you guys for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, share this. Hit the notification bell to select all to receive upcoming notifications. And if you love what you hear, you can go to my description box, hit that link to my Cash App. You can donate whatever your heart desire, as well as when we have a premiere video or live video, you guys can super chat now. Thank you guys, man, and give me your comment. What do you think about this? What do you think about this new information on the case? Brian Flores and Mr. Gruden. So thank you guys, man. We out. Deezy.